like to introduce. First, I want to thank both Joyce Heffelbauer, is she here this evening?
No, she's out of town.
Okay. And Sue Wall, who just said no, she's out of town. These are the two residents who really have taken action, and actually Sue is a past community council member, who took action when they heard that their neighbors were having some issues with coyotes. Joyce lives in Oaks North, Sue lives in Seven Oaks, and they contacted me, or I contacted them, I don't remember at this point, but after hearing from residents and everything, we got together with each other, and this is one reason why we're having this meeting tonight. So it's all about communication with the community as a whole. So with that, I want to introduce from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Representative Game Warden Lance White, as well as Ro Rosinka, Kim Mamlanko, and is Mike Ferens here also? And somebody else is here too that you know of.
We have Terry Cox that works with Animal Services, USDA, and we also have Jason Price, who is with the biologist, he's a land manager.
There you go. Well, as they come to the podium, if they could introduce themselves just so that our secretary can properly record them, and you folks have the floor. And we want to thank you ahead of time for coming, and we're looking forward to it.
Thanks everyone, good evening. I want to say again thanks to Sue Wall and Joyce Heffelbauer for helping us get the information. Can you hear me? Anybody can you hear me now?
Yeah. Horizon.
I was saying thanks. I want to say special thanks to Sue Wall and Joyce Heffelbauer for helping us with the information. The way it's going to work this evening is Ro and Kim are going to give a presentation, what they give to the public quite often about coyotes. After that, I'll address any questions that you might have, and I brought along Jason Price and Terry Cox to help me if I stumble and don't know the answer. How many animal activists do we have this evening? It's okay, I'm serious, it's okay. And then, how many people do you want to get rid of the coyotes altogether? Okay, unfortunately, it's going to be frustrating for you because we don't operate that way, and hopefully by the time we're done here, you have an idea on how we try to educate the public to coexist with wildlife, and so both parties are happy. All right, so we'll save the questions until after the presentation. If it carries over, it can carry over into the parking lot. Feel free to ask me any questions that you have now or later, and along with the people that I'm with this evening, they can help out. All right?
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Very nice of you to invite us to be here this evening. Just because Kim and I are here as volunteers, I don't want you to assume that we're on the side of the coyotes. Because we're here as volunteers, don't assume that we're against the coyotes. The reason that we're here is to give you the most current, up-to-date information that we have about the coyote. Now remember, as I get into what I'm saying and followed up by Kim, we are taking over their territory. They are not taking over ours. So with that as a baseline, let's get started about the animal itself. What we're dealing with here is a mature adult coyote. Do they get bigger? Yes. Do they get smaller? Yes. This is a standard coyote, approximately 26 inches tall, 54 inches from the tip of the nose to the bushy tail. Now, we'll start at the back end, and we're going to go forward so that when you leave here, you'll know more about a coyote than 86% of the people in San Diego. The reason he has a bushy tail, primarily which consists of fur and hair. Fur being the raincoat, hair being the underwear. Understood? That's over his whole body. He has a bushy tail like this primarily to stabilize him while running. He can run at 25 miles an hour all day while hunting. He can run 45 miles an hour if he feels he's being hunted. He will not run 45 miles an hour every day, all the time, or he would be totally exhausted. And I think you all understand that. What you have in the legs, long, spindly, and very fast. One of the things the Native Americans used to say about them when they look at the legs and watch the animal is that it's the most confident walker in the wilderness. And you'll know why when I get to the other end here. As we get up here, we notice the ears. Triangular in shape, large, and facing forward. They can hear everything that goes on. If you look at the eyes, you'll find out that they're yellow. Their night vision is equal to that of an owl and a bat, and I was going to say bat, but the bat, of course, uses sound. 5 times better than any human being. You come down here to the narrow snout. 2 things about it. The nose on the end of it is the most sensitive thing going. It's narrow so that it can get in holes. It will chase a mouse, a squirrel, whatever the case may be, and hopefully, as it gets down the hole, it can get its follow right in and pull it out. Inside the mouth, 42 teeth. It's one of the very few animals that use all the teeth all the time. Some animals use the front. Some animals crush with the back. Some animals eat all their dinners and suppers with the middles. This uses all the teeth all the time. Now, the thing that makes the coyote so unique is in history. History goes back hundreds and hundreds of years with the coyote. The Native Americans took him and worshipped him because of his prowess. It is the smartest animal that you will ever come up against. It is an animal that thinks, reasons, and figures things out. Now, what the Native Americans said about the coyote was that if a leaf fell in the forest, the eagle could see it, the deer could hear it, and the bear could smell it. But the coyote knew all about it as it was falling. He uses everything all the time, and it makes him a unique animal. All his attention is on what is in front of him and around him. That's why he is one of the most confident walkers. He knows what's going on. When they hunt, as Kim will be telling you about, they hunt to eat. If you are finding things in your backyard missing, they hunt to eat. If you find something in your backyard destroyed, chances are it's not the coyote. We all want to blame the coyote. But if it's a destroyed animal, that means one of your friend's dogs is running at night and the alpha male says, let's have some fun, let's go in there and cause some havoc. This animal here will only kill to eat. And when it kills something, it takes it with them. Can they jump? They can jump a 5-foot fence. They put their front feet over, back legs crawl up, come 5-foot fence with about a 3 to 4 pound animal in their mouth. They will be watching you. They follow everything that you do from the wilderness. And Kim is going to talk about that, so I'm not even going to go into what that means to be watched. But these are the things about the coyote that you should know. They are everywhere in this county. There is nobody without them. And when you all raise your hand and say, I want to get rid of all of them, I want you to consider this. If you got rid of every coyote, number one, there would be coyotes from other states coming in to fill this giant hole. There's game here because there's nobody here to eat it anymore. Number two, if you get rid of every one of them, there would be rats, squirrels, mice, gophers, skunks. All of these animals in the food chain would now be free to attack your homes and farms and gardens, because the next in the food chain that takes care of them is right here. How did he get to be so popular in the United States? Because 15 to 25 years ago, the United States thought it was a very, very good idea to shoot all the wolves. The wolves were eating our deer. Let's kill them all. Wolves are supposed to eat deer. So what they did is they let everybody shoot all of them. Who is next in the food chain above him? The wolf. Now without the wolf to keep his numbers down, the coyote's numbers came up. Now what Kim is going to do, she's going to introduce you to this animal from being explained what the whole animal is to something about his life. Kim?
Good evening. My name is Kim Mascaleco, and I'm actually a former resident of Bernardo Heights. I lived there in the late 1990s, early 2000s, right on the canyon. And I remember a pattern that we would see a lot of rabbits, and then the rabbits we wouldn't see anymore. And an ambulance would go by, and we'd hear the song of the coyote, which they call the song dog in certain Native American circles. And then when the rabbits were gone, we wouldn't see the coyotes. And then when the rabbit population would reestablish itself, the coyotes would come back. And that's nature's way. And then we moved in, and our backyards, unfortunately, tend to become like free buffets, and things change, unfortunately, for the detriment of the coyote. But we'll probably let Warden Leahy handle that area. I'd like to tell you about the family life of the coyote. Coyotes actually don't run in packs. They run in families. If you see a group of coyotes, it's the mother and the father and the pups, and maybe a pup or two from last year staying to help and raise the next litter. So what generally happens is that when a male coyote reaches maturity, he'll learn how to howl. And if he howls, you'll hear him at night, he's saying one of two things. He's telling the other male coyotes to stay away because he's a territorial animal. And if they come closer, there'll be a fight. But he's also saying, hey, single lady, and I'd like to start a family, so come closer. Of course, when he finds the right lady, they not only mate, they mate for life. They stay together for life, much as hopefully we do. And they'll have about 4 to 6 pups in the wild. In captivity, they can have a lot more. The gestation period is 60 days, and they tend to have their pups between March and May. So as you can imagine, during the summertime is when they're really looking for food for the pups and to teach the pups how to hunt. So the pups are born at about a ½ pound, toothless, blind, and helpless. But yet by 5 to 6 weeks old, they stop drinking their mother's milk. And by 10 weeks old, they start hunting little creatures as small as moths, as big as mice. They say that the coyote's favorite food is anything it can chew. And that's quite the truth. We're led to believe because of the dentition that he's a carnivore, but that's really far from the truth. In the wild, they will eat insects, they'll eat reptiles, they'll eat amphibians, they'll eat mammals. And when they get introduced to our backyards, of course, they eat things that we really wish they wouldn't. So about 7 to 9 months, the coyotes will go out on their own, except for the 1 or 2 that might stick around to help with the next litter. So the coyote is really an amazing animal. They're highly adaptable, highly intelligent. They memorize things. If they go into a yard and they don't face a problem, they'll be back. If they go into a yard and they do face a problem, they won't come back. And they're highly adaptable to new situations, new threats, new things to eat. In the southwest of America, during the winter, they can survive on juniper berries, 90% of their diet for weeks, possibly months at a time. So they're really, in the animal kingdom, one of the most adaptable animals. Warden, would it be all right if I introduce them to some hazing techniques?
Sure.
Okay. The coyote's looking for the same things that you're looking for. Water, of course, and food, of course, and shelter, of course. And it's an interesting fact that coyotes don't keep dens unless they have pups. And when they do have pups, they keep not one den but two. So if they have trouble at one den, they can go to another. But when they don't have pups, they're looking for any small space where they can live. So that could be under your porch if it's not closed in. That could be in your landscaping if you don't keep it well cut. Standing water would attract them. They'll even drink chlorinated water if they're quite thirsty. And like I was telling you, they're truly omnivorous. So they'll eat fruit that's been left on the ground. They'll eat out of vegetable gardens. They love bird feeders. They love the birds that are attracted to a bird feeder, and they love the mammals that are attracted to. So you might have to make a tough decision about your bird feeder during the summer. And also, of course, since they're nocturnal, it's most important that you not leave things out for them to eat, including your pets at night. When they get emboldened, we don't like to say aggressive because coyotes don't increase in aggressiveness, they increase in boldness. And what I mean by that is if you were to go out into the wild and come across a coyote and clap your hands and shout, what do you think would happen? That coyote would be gone. And that should work in your yard too. But once they get so used to us and our rhythms and our habits, they lose their fear of us. And we have a saying that a bed coyote is a dead coyote. And it's really no joking matter. You can probably tell by the way the coyotes have proliferated that they're in no need of our handouts. Not at all. They're doing very well. So it's not only unwise to feed them, but it's illegal. So we certainly discourage that. And if people are reported to be feeding coyotes, it's highly possible that they'll receive a visit from a game warden. So anyway, the first thing I like to say is don't leave them what they're looking for: water, food, shelter. And if you have coyotes that are showing an interest in your property, there are ways that you can discourage their presence, which are humane. And I'm going to introduce you to those right now. One of them, we've chased a lot of coyotes out of a lot of yards around the county just by shouting and clapping and teaching that technique. But there are other techniques if you find that the coyotes are losing their inhibition. One of them, believe it or not, their sense of hearing is so acute. If you were to blow a brass whistle, a metal whistle, not a plastic whistle, that would be excruciating for them. And I'm not going to prove it by doing it to you in this room because it would be absolutely excruciating. And also these party horns will alarm them. You can find them quite cheaply at Party City down in Carmel Mountain, where I used to get all my kids' party stuff. Another method is to go to Michael's and get one of these cans that has a top that you can take off and put back on. Put 5 or 7 glass marbles in the can and then tape the lid back on. And I don't find it necessary that you hit the coyote with this can, but if you throw it in their direction, they don't like it much. And this technique is not as widely as accepted by others, but it is very effective. If you get a super soaker squirt gun, like you can get at Walmart, and you take about a half a cup of ammonia, not bleach, ammonia. This will shoot about 20 feet out, and if you hit the coyote in the chest, he won't like it. It will not harm him, but it will be uncomfortable for him, and he will want to leave. And this is far more humane than needing to be trapped and euthanized or harvested in some other fashion. So, is there anything else you want me to cover?
I think that went pretty good. Anything about what her and I just said, you before we stop.
Leaving the lights on? Motion lights are good. The kind that, or the kind that stay on all night, or the type that just come on when there's movement. I've heard it's effective with coyotes, and I've heard that the ultrasonic noisemakers are not at all effective.
Yes, ma'am?
This is for Kim. I wanted to find out if you could squirt them with a hose in your backyard.
Absolutely. Then some of the other suggestions, the air horn, the whistle, or any other thing that can make a lot of noise. If you're walking your pet, you need to pick your pet up in your arms and have a stance. You got to stand up. If you just walk away, then you're no longer a threat any more than you were before, and that's how they get habitualized to noises, whistles, other methods of noise. Okay?
I've seen them as late as 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning. And
I got to tell you, folks, that for the retirement community, you're easy picking. And I'm not being mean. I'm being very realistic. You folks are at home. You're on the street all day long. You walk, go back and forth. It's not like the younger communities where people are out at work. The kids are at school, and the neighborhood is pretty, quiet. Quiet's not the right term. But you folks are out all the time. And what's your favorite pets? Your favorite pets are lap dogs, small dogs that you enjoy the company of, they're part of your family, and they're an ideal meal for a coyote. So when the coyotes see you out on the street, walking by, I've read a couple dozen letters about coyotes being, you call them fearless, but they've actually just adapted to you. And you cause no threat, and the only time you're going to have a problem is when they focus on your pet. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Good question. Are there any incidents of them attacking a human without a pet in their arms? Is there any danger to humans because we're bigger than they are?
An adult is not a problem. The small children, and that should be something that we cover. You also have grandkids, great-grandkids, right? They come to visit, spend time, summertime, or whatever. You have to be just as careful with them as you would your small pet. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
So will it attack the pet even if you are holding the...
Yes.
What was the question?
Is it okay if I step forward? You said, will it attack your pet while it's on a leash? Absolutely. Once it focuses on the prey, which is the small dogs or cats, it's completely focused on it until it has it in its mouth and is running away with it. So it's really hard to break their concentration, their focus on their meal to get them to back off and turn away. So you have to make a concentrated effort. The first step is to pick your pet up and put it in your arm. Okay? Does that answer your question?
How big a pet would it go?
Well, like we discussed, 4, 6, 8 pounds is not a problem for a coyote.
We just lost a 12-pound dog.
Could you talk to me after we're done? And we'll talk about that. Go ahead, sir.
What about a 60-pound black lab? Well,
No.
on walking range.
No. Unless he's old, and they can see the vulnerability in his age. And in some cases, it'll be a family of coyotes that turn on the dog like that.
I walk there every day in the Greenbelt area where coyotes have been seen. If I should see a coyote over there, what should I do? Go the other way, stop?
You're just seeing a coyote?
Yeah.
It's important you folks know that seeing a coyote does not constitute any action being made by us or anybody else. They're here, we all know they're here, we coexist, we try to coexist, and by seeing a coyote, whether it's in your backyard or on the street, does not constitute any action being taken.
But the population, they just keep populating it more and more.
Well, see, and we talked about that earlier. Again, the community here provides a perfect environment for coyotes. They have food, water, and shelter. If you can take one of those things away, they'll find someplace else to live. But it's ideal for them. That's why you see them healthy. They're big, and they're prolific. Their birth rate is bigger than it's probably ever been, and it'll continue to be that way. Sure.
What's a full-grown coyote weigh, roughly, a male?
Bro?
Weight of full male between 20 and 45 pounds.
Okay, so about a 20-pound, 25-pound dog, are they generally gonna not go after that?
Coyotes are not going to risk anything if it's going to cost them anything.
Also, when I go out at night, I take a flashlight. Will that flashlight attract them or deter them, or?
I don't have an answer. I would always have a flashlight with me though if you're going to be out at
I'm
night.
wondering whether that would deter them or attract them, or really don't know.
Could it, make it a long one so that you can use it.
Well, yeah.
I'm serious.
No,
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just going to make an observation. I hike a lot, and I hike late in the day, and I rarely actually see coyotes out in the wild. I hear them, they hide, in the bushes. I hear them howling and the rest. What I've noticed, there was a problem a couple of years ago, and I talked to a retired police officer who was a volunteer ranger working down there. He said they had a problem with people taking their dogs out and letting them off the leash. And I see this all the time. He talked about one incident where somebody took their dog out, let it off the leash, the dog caught sight of a coyote, ran after the coyote, and surprised not only the coyote but two of his friends. And they ripped him up pretty badly. That could have been prevented by keeping the dog on the leash.
Absolutely.
And they have signs all over the place at Lake Hodges, and people still let their dogs run loose. They need to do something about that.
Now,
Do they get bigger than that? Because the ones I've seen were much bigger and darker. And, I mean, I thought it was a wolf.
well, like Rose said, they can get up to 45 pounds.
No, they get bigger than that. I mean, it looked really big. The ones
Now,
I've seen were really
you got to
big.
understand, when they have hair, they look like they're twice as big. But if you were to cut all their hair off, you'd be surprised at how small the body is.
Really? Because the one, and they were dark colored, and they got my daughter's dog, which is a full month German Shepherd. They don't let the neck totally went out and ran away, but we actually get stitches. But they were really big.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot bigger than this, and dark colors. So I
Well,
thought
a
maybe
lot
it
of
was a wolf.
times, you get excited about the situation too. And
No, I
they
thought
have
it was a
hair.
wolf because I seen them later.
We don't have any
crossing the
wolves.
street. Okay, but it just looks
Hey,
like.
folks, listen to me. In a ranch, if you go out to a ranch to where they have horses and cattle and huge areas of land, if you see a coyote, it's usually because it's running in the opposite direction. Okay? Because they know that a human, once they spot them, can cost them their lives because ranchers have no problem whatsoever shooting a coyote. So it's a fixed behavior. Bert? Okay.
Two things. First, the coyotes can run 14 feet. They did in Arizona. And wouldn't the whistle hurt your own dog's ears?
Say that one more time.
Wouldn't the dog's ears be hurt also by the whistle? Your own dog?
It's not hurting.
It's disrupting. I mean,
It just scares them.
yeah, what would you rather do?
I don't want to get my dog.
Terry, this is Terry Cox in the back. He works for USDA. He's Animal Services. Terry, have you ever seen a coyote jump 14 feet?
No, but they could crawl.
They do it
I wouldn't doubt if they did. I've seen them jump as high as 6 foot, right to the top. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
We recommend a 6.5 foot fence or higher. It's not going to prevent them from getting over it. It will slow them up. There's a few products out there like the Coyote Roll Guard. I don't know if you all heard of that, but it's a device that has rollers that run the whole span of the fence. You attach that on there, it has to be on a 6.5-foot fence or higher. Otherwise, they'll just jump right over it. But what it does, when they go to latch their paws on the front of that roll bar, it's just going to throw them right back on their t-shirt. So, those are just some of the techniques and stuff. I just wanted to add one thing before we go on. We were talking about the do's and don'ts and what coyotes have a learned behavior. They can figure things out pretty good. One of the things that I've noticed over the 20 years of doing this is when they approach humans, they're testing you way before they're even looking at you or your pet. They're seeing your response. When they're walking across the street and you're maybe 100 feet away from them, they're observing your reaction to them. And what you do is going to tell them what they can get away with. And what they do is once they realize that there's no repercussions for their action, they just keep pushing that envelope until they do have a conflict with a human. And I've had coyotes come up and snatch dogs right out of people's laps trying to protect them. So you can't can't think of the word, but you can't categorize what they'll do and what they won't do. They push the envelope to see what they can get away with. So keep that in mind. Conditioning is a big thing. They've been conditioned not to fear y'all because nothing happens to them when they do these things. You can condition those animals by what she said with the noisemakers, the ammonia and the squirt gun. I even go as far as saying a BB gun or slingshot or paintball gun. If they associate a little pain with hanging around a human, they're going to think twice about it. It's a learned behavior that she was talking about earlier. Those are for extreme cases where they're so bold that they're ignoring you to come in and take your pet with you present.
So throwing rocks is a good idea if you happen to see.
Rocks are a good idea.
Stand your ground.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can do, pick the dog up, but don't turn your back on them and walk away. Confront them. So that there's some consequence with them encountering it. If you turn and walk away, you're no threat.
It's all conditioning. They're gonna do whatever they can get away with. So. Sounds like you.
Question?
Yes. So, if you have, for instance, in a case of walking a small dog, like a lap dog, and a larger dog, maybe 40, 50 pounds, we had a situation like that in our neighborhood where there was a coyote watching, and then, and it actually happened to be my husband, who was walking our dogs. And the coyote was staring at him. This was probably about 7:30 in the morning. And so he had a small dog and a larger dog. And he didn't know what to do. And he
Your husband or the coyote?
My husband. And he didn't have his cell phone with him or anything like that.
Yeah.
And he picked up the dog and basically ran. And he ran to someone's house and rang the doorbell, but nobody answered, and he just ran all the way home. Do you think that the coyote maybe sized up the other dog and decided not to do anything?
The coyote's sizing up the whole situation, everything that's involved there. And again, it's perceived not a threat, so it could very well happen again with the same coyote. Because he already knows that there's no consequence with the contact.
Interesting.
Hey, Lance, can I get in for 1 minute?
Sure.
All you folks that walk animals with these small dog stories, and you have the 14, 15-foot fishing, that's what you're doing. You're bait casting. Yes. You're fishing for a
I just want you to know that, coyotes really haven't been a problem for, it's aggressively gotten worse throughout the years. as San Diego has grown, it's kind of pushed those coyotes out into the fringe areas of our development. I've been observing coyotes for most of my life. One of the things I've noticed is they've slowly moved back in. And let me ask you a question. Why do you think they're moving back in? It's an endless food resource in these urban areas. I mean, endless. You got trash cans, you got, pets, you got pet food, you got water year round, irrigation, pools, you got everything they need to sustain life, right? Every year they have a den of pups. Those pups now are being born in an environment that includes everybody here. They know your smells. They're used to them. Those pups know right away that, hey, I'm not afraid of these people because they're part of my environment now. Because they're denning 100 yards from your house maybe. Sometimes under your deck or under your front porch. So my point I'm trying to make, it's been a slow process over many years of them coming back in. Now it's gotten to a point where it's starting to get a little bit ridiculous, the behavior they're displaying. I take a coyote in town, he's nothing like a coyote out on my ranches. That coyote out on that ranch, is all I see is his tail heading for tall cotton. He wants to go part of a bike, a horse, a vehicle driving by. But these coyotes in town will stand right in the middle of the street, stare you down, and see what your reaction is. That can change. You can change that behavior by applying some of the things that they were talking about and more. Let them know they're not welcome here. Those coyotes, when they're jumping in people's backyards, is because it's a target-rich environment for them. I've sat there and watched the darn things beat a path into the dirt right next to a fence. A dog runs out to protect his property, barking. That coyote can be over that fence, have that dog stretched out before he even knew what happened. And it's that simple and that easy. I've got them where they've gone through dog doors, which I hate dog doors, but they go through dog doors and kill people's pets in their living room. So, my point is, whenever you see one, you have to discourage that animal from hanging around humans and human dwellings. And I'll leave it up there.
Gal's back.
We have a bobcat. I have pictures of it, and it won't go. It's at 10 o'clock and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's not being discouraged at all.
Does it scare you?
Yeah, it does.
There's been no attack by bobcat on anybody.
Really? Well, how about, we all have little dogs there? I mean, and
Little dogs can be an issue, but the bobcat's even smaller. And their favorite prey is the ground squirrels and the rabbits.
Really? Okay.
I'm not saying it won't happen because, again, it's a behavioral thing. So it's always a possibility, but generally speaking, they're scaredy cats. They don't spend a lot of time. Sir?
Yeah, you're talking about noise and you're talking about water guns and all that. I take my dog out for a walk and I usually carry a cane. My neighbor carries a golf club. Is there any potential negative aspect by interacting with coyotes? Whacking them with one?
If you got that close, I would encourage it. Everything that we're talking about here. If he knows he's going to get hit in the head, if he gets too close to a human being, he's going to stop doing it.
Because the population has increased so much over recent years with them having pups and being habituated, in our neighborhood, hazing doesn't seem to work. They are not afraid of noise, they're not afraid of people, they come very close, blow whistles, and they'll just stand there and look at you. In the information that you gave, it appeared that it's not illegal to trap them. They're not endangered, right?
It's illegal for the public to trap them.
Okay. Is it illegal for the public to hire?
It's illegal to poison them?
Is it illegal for the public to hire someone to trap them?
No. Professional agency?
Yes.
You'll find it in most cases is expensive, but they are
Right.
out there.
It's about $100 a head, which to me is not that expensive if we all get together. So we could shoot them with a paint gun or a BB gun, but we're talking about senior citizens that maybe don't have, 2 dogs in their arms and can't shoot a gun. And they don't, the whistles and things do not work. I bought an air gun, which I luckily haven't had to use. I've also, what's that?
You need to go out and try it.
Well, it's loud, but I'm hoping that I don't have a situation where the coyote comes up where I have to use it. But I've also read about there's a spray that you can use. I've read online that you can spray around your perimeter that deters coyotes.
I'm unaware of it.
No. Anything with ammonia in it, if you spray around your property, the ammonia goes away in 30 minutes. It becomes nothing.
It's like wolf pee or vodka or something. Well, that's what it was, is you haven't heard of that working. So if we can hire private people, but because of the incidents, and we've had humans bit in our neighborhood, and we've had 3 or 4 dogs just in the last month taken.
You've had humans bit in your neighborhood?
Yes, there was a human.
Where do you live now?
In Oaks North. In the villas, there was a human that was bitten last year. Is there anything that you guys would do to set out traps?
Here's the way we'll break it down, okay? I told you that there'd be a lot of disappointed people.
And I don't want to get rid of them completely. I don't like rats any more than I like coyotes.
It's okay, I understand, but we're not going to eliminate all the coyotes.
Some, not all.
Because we have a few coyotes that get close and you feel threatened by them. And generally speaking, if you lose an animal or you have a really close encounter, I need to find out first of all, so you need to call the department, okay? It would usually go through Roe and his staff, and they'll decide at what level it needs to be taken care of, whether it's just public information, or if we need to go out if a cat or a dog is missing or been injured, or there's been really